From the Urban After Dark Studios, it's time to win a meal with D-Wheel.
Hey, what's going on? It's your boy D-Wheel. Win a meal with D-Wheel right here in the Urban After Dark Studios. And it's week 4. And there's a lot of things that have gone on that's been, what's the best way to say it? A little strange? Yeah, that's probably the best way to say it. There's a lot of things going on that we really did not have a plan for. There are a lot of experts that are confused, discombobulated. There are players that we just knew were going to be at the top who aren't at the top. But hey, that happens every year. And so today we're going to go through and look at the main slate, which is the 12 games that's going on in the main slate. And we're going to just kind of go through, create a lineup, and talk about a few players that you may want to pick. And then, of course, some players that you're going to want to stay away from. Okay, so let's jump right into it. We're going to start with quarterbacks like we always do. So for quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers is always a great choice. Now, what I'm going to do for this particular situation, I am in DraftKings. I am on the DraftKings app on my phone, and I have sorted the quarterbacks by points per game. And in the main slate, I'm going to get Ryan Fitzpatrick. I'm going to get Drew Brees, Matt Ryan, Phillip Rivers, and Deshaun Watson, who, by the way, is secretly not having as bad of a fantasy football year as some people would like for you to believe. He's actually coming on in the last few games. And I think it's a lot because it has not even been a year since the ACL injury. And you have to understand that there is going to be sometimes some rebuild up, some things that he has to convince himself that he can do. Even though the knee can do it, mentally you're thinking in your head, I don't really know if I'm going to be able to do this or not. So Deshaun Watson still has some building to do, but he's getting better and better, in my opinion, every week. So he's definitely somebody to look at. And he's number 5 as far as being ranked from top points scored in the main slate. Now, there are a few quarterbacks who are not on the list because they don't play in the main slate, but these are the 5 that are in the main slate. And so if I'm going through those numbers, I believe that Drew Brees is a lock, and I think Matt Ryan is a lock. Now, Matt Ryan is a lock for me because Matt Ryan is playing Cincinnati, and Cincinnati's defense, to me, isn't the best matchup. If you actually go click on the picture for Matt Ryan and click on matchup, you'll notice that the defense for Cincinnati is ranked 23rd in passing yardage attempts. 23rd passing yardage. I'm sorry, not attempts, passing yardage. 23rd. They give up 270 per game, ranked number 23. Matt Ryan should be able to exploit that, and so that is why Matt Ryan is one of the top, in my opinion, quarterbacks for this particular week. Ryan Fitzpatrick being number 1, people ask, why wouldn't you choose them? Well, passing yardage per game, Chicago is actually ranked 9th. And rushing yardage, they're ranked 2nd. Total yardage, they're ranked 5th. It is a much better defense. Not that Ryan Fitzpatrick won't be able to be successful against Chicago. I just don't believe that he's going to be as successful as he has been against some of the other defenses. So I am definitely pushing Drew Brees and Matt Ryan as far as this week. And again, I'm only looking at some of the people at the top this week. Normally I'll go through and I'll try to find some diamonds in the rough. At quarterback, I'm not really looking for a diamond in the rough for quarterback. I'm looking at who's going to be at the top, who's scoring points. The Patrick Mahomes of the world, like I said, he's not on here because he's not in the main slate this week. But those are the type of players that I'm looking for. Now, when I move to running back, which is what I'm getting ready to do now, obviously then you start to look for opportunities where players who do not cost as much will be able to get you the similar amount of points. I'm a big fan, even though he's starting to move up in the world. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm ranking them fantasy points per game. I will start off the same way. Alvin Kamara, Melvin Gordon, Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott is number 4, and then Joe Mixon is out, so he doesn't count, but he was number 5. Isaiah Crowell is the number 5 point earner in the main slate. Crowell is only $3,700. diamond in the rough. Those are the type of players that I'm talking about when we start talking about diamond in the rough. He's also a great player to select at your flex position. A lot of times we are looking for just a player to put in the flex position, understanding that I need that player to be able to get 20 points. Right now, Isaiah for the Jets is getting 16.7 points per game. He is playing Jacksonville this week, which is a much better defense. I'm not sure if people are giving it credit. If you go to the matchups again against the run, though, they are 21st. Now, they are third against the pass, but only 21st against the run. So I still feel like Isaiah Crowell has an opportunity to score points this week the same way he has done in all of the weeks prior. Saquon Barkley, I like, not because he's necessarily getting the yardage, but because he's definitely getting the pass attempts. Last week, I know they said he had 17 carries for 82 yards, and then he got 5 passes against the Cowboys. It seemed like he got almost 12 passes the week before. I believe that this week, when you're talking about going against New Orleans, there is going to be a need to keep up with New Orleans offense against a New Orleans defense that really isn't that good. That's going to require for Saquon Barkley to get quite a bit of the little dump passes, because Eli Manning loves to check down. He's a check down quarterback at this point. He's not taking the shots to Odell Beckham like you would have expected. Instead, he's checking down a lot, and I expect for him to probably take more chances against New Orleans because their defense isn't quite as good, but I still believe that there's going to be a lot more passing trying to keep up, and Saquon Barkley is going to get in the game via those catches in a PPR league, which is what DraftKings is. That is a wonderful situation. So I believe that that's a great opportunity for you to jump into at $8,100. He's cheaper than Melvin Gordon and Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara is essentially going to put 30, 40 points on the board. It seems like almost every week. That is why he is $9,600. It doesn't leave a whole lot of room for you doing a lot of other things if you take a $9,600 running back, but I do understand why you would do it if you decide to. There are a couple of other people. Matt Breida is for San Francisco is only $5,800. He's getting the same 16 points per game. Austin Eckler is the same. He is $4,200. A fan of mine. I use him a lot in games. Marshawn Lynch, I haven't used as much. However, he is getting 15 points per game. Those are some players that you can really look at as far as matchups this year, or this week rather. Now, just to stop and pause for just a little bit and kind of tell you a little bit about my actual picks. I don't normally do this. I just kind of give an example. But I want to kind of talk to you a little bit more about my picks because I want you guys to be able to make some money. I think it's a shame that I'm making money. Last week, I think I made money with 177 points is what my team actually scored. I said that you want to be able to try to get above 140 to be able to make money. You got to know which games to play in. You're not going to win big money with 140 or 177, but you are going to be able to get some points out of, or some money out of the deal. I think it's, $50 to $200, depending on which games that you're actually playing. You'll be able to make money with a 177. So I just want to break down just for the positions that we've already gone through, quarterbacks and the running back positions. I have 3 lineups pulled up. That's all I've selected so far. I am going to be picking more. I typically do about 12 per week. I've just been a little backed up this week, so I haven't picked all of them. But I picked Matt Ryan and Drew Brees as my 2 quarterbacks on the 3. The running backs that I chose was Alvin Kamara. I chose with Marshawn Lynch on 1. Alvin Kamara again with Eckler on 1. And then for the 3rd one, I did Melvin Gordon with Saquon Barkley. So you know what that means. I went heavy on the running backs, which took away from my ability to go heavy on the wide receiver. Although I do have Matt Ryan, Alvin Kamara, and Michael Thomas, which we're getting ready to talk about, all in one lineup. Matter of fact, I have that multiple times. No, I have Drew Brees, Michael Thomas with Melvin Gordon, and Saquon Barkley on another one. So that's kind of an idea. If you want to kind of see how I'm picking the things that I'm choosing, that's where we're going. Now we're going to move to the wide receivers. So for the wide receivers, it's a little more fickle. Michael Thomas is $9,100. He's getting you 33 points per game. Drew Brees and Michael Thomas are having an extraordinary year thus far. Odell Beckham is $8,700. I just can't see picking Odell Beckham. And so that is why I start to rank it with the fantasy points per game. He's just not getting what I expect out of an $8,700 pick. Michael Thomas is out of a $9,100 pick, and that's why I've selected him on a couple of my teams. Now, when you move to the wide receivers and you rank them per fantasy points per game, 1 is Michael Thomas, 2 is Mike Evans, 3 Will Fuller, 4 is Deshaun Jackson, and 5 is AJ Green. Again, this is looking at the main slate. So there are still some players who are not on this particular list. So out of those players, let's just look at the top 5. I like Will Fuller because Will Fuller right now is getting 26 points per game. I told you about Will Fuller last week. I said pick Will Fuller. Some people didn't want to believe me. It was definitely a good pick. Against Indianapolis, I still feel like it's going to be a similar situation. If you do the same thing and you look up at the passing yardage, then you're going to notice that they're ranked 13th in passing defense as far as the Indianapolis defense is concerned. So Will Fuller is definitely someone that you can look at for $6,800. I don't expect for him to have the week that he had last week, but I still believe that you'll get 20 points out of him, and for $6,800, that's not a bad situation to be in. I also like Deshaun Jackson simply because he had a low week last week. I don't expect for that to continue. It's going to be a bounce back game for him, showing that he was not a fluke. Deshaun Jackson, they're going to be looking at him, I think, a little bit more than they did at the beginning of the year. Beginning of the year, I think, kind of got caught some people off guard. I don't expect for that to continue. However, I do respect Deshaun Jackson as a threat, a deep threat, and I expect for him to be able to continue to score points. I don't expect for him to have a slow game as he did last year. I actually like Calvin Ridley. Now, he's only up here because of the game that he had last week, so he's not number 6 on the list, but he's only up here because of the one big game. I think he's number 7 on the list. I do apologize, but I do like him. He's still a decent player. I am still a fan of Jarvis Landry, especially now that Cleveland has a new quarterback. Even though he's not at the top of the list, he's $7,400. I believe Jarvis Landry is going to be a points earner moving in the weeks to come. So I've been right on a lot. I've been wrong on some. I think I'm going to be right on this. I still like Geronimo Allison at $4,700. He's a player that Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to target frequently, or I say he's going to be able to. He has been targeting frequently. Although he only got 4 targets in the last game, I don't believe that they're going to have another game where they're only throwing to Geronimo Allison 4 times. So I'm going to continue with Geronimo Allison being one of those players that I leave on the list, especially for $4,700. A lot of times when you get to choosing your third wide receiver or your flex player, and you're trying to figure out where you want to pick that player from, I personally like to pick my flex player as a running back. Seems like the running backs are deep and scoring points this year. The wide receivers are kind of off and on. So I like to choose running backs in my flex position. But Geronimo Allison is one of those $4,700 people that, you know, not hard to see why you would maybe put him in a flex position when you have less than $5,000 that you can spend on a player after taking maybe an Alvin Kamara or Michael Thomas through your league. I told you guys about defenses last week, and I've been trying to pick defenses that kind of fit within my budget. That blew up in my face last week. I almost won some money, except for the defense that I chose got 0 points or 1 point or something similar to that. It was not a good situation, and I didn't think I chose a bad defense. Just to be honest with you, I really do try to go through and find a cheap defense that is playing somebody I believe is going to be good. I like the Miami. Obviously, I like the Bears, but they're playing Tampa Bay. I'm not really sure that I'm going to take the Bears against Tampa Bay because the opportunity to score a lot of points is there. I do like the Jets defense, even though they're playing Jacksonville. I just don't respect Jacksonville as a big point threat defense. So I do like going to them. And then I like the Seahawks going against Arizona simply because Arizona's defense isn't the greatest. But I don't typically want to pay $3,200, which is what the Seahawks defense is. I think I would stick with either the Jets or the Dolphins, even though the Dolphins are playing against New England. New England hasn't exactly been lighting up the scoreboard this year either. Well, there it is. I've actually gone through. Somebody asked me, would I actually go through the log instead of just picking players, go through there and show them kind of how I'm picking and what it is that I pick. So that is exactly what I did. I will tell you the same way that I did earlier when I went through my teams. As far as wide receivers are concerned, I did tell you that I chose Michael Thomas on 2 of the teams. If you remember, again, I said that I only have 3 teams right now. I am going to be picking others. On the one, I chose Jarvis Landry, Deshaun Jackson, Geronimo Allison. I did Michael Thomas, Deshaun Jackson, and Callaway on the 3rd one, and then Michael Thomas, Ted Ginn Jr., and Williams on the 3rd one. And I really don't even know what Williams that is. Let me find Tyrell Williams. There you go. I picked Tyrell Williams for the Chargers on a pick. And I believe I picked him simply because he was going against San Francisco. I expect for San Francisco to be a horrible. I was getting ready to cuss, so I had to stop it. Y'all have to apologize. I expect for them to be a horrible showing this week because of the loss of their quarterback. I expect for the backup quarterback to throw a couple of interceptions, put them in a bad situation, and the Chargers to really take advantage of that. And so because of that, I just felt like there's going to be some situations where Tyrell Williams is going to get the ball, and with only $3,600, because if you remember, I told you I went high on running backs and Michael Thomas at wide receiver. I needed somebody who was going to be just a little bit cheaper, and so that's why I went with Tyrell Williams with the Chargers. So that was just somebody that hadn't really talked about him. I also chose at tight end just this one time Antonio Gates, and I kind of chose him for a very similar reason. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm looking at the Chargers playing against San Francisco. I feel like Antonio Gates is going to be able to get some catches this particular week. So I chose him, and he was only $2,700 in an attempt. But I did choose Jared Cook on my other 2 at tight end. So just so you guys know, that's what it is. This is Win a Meal with D. Will. I'm expecting for you to do it. It's time to start taking our shots now. We've had 3 weeks to really get to what the NFL is going to give us this year. That's a very important thing. That's one of the things that I'm always looking to do. I want to know what we're getting before I really start taking my shots and putting a whole lot of money out there. I really want to know what the trends are going to be for the NFL. And in this situation now, we're in week 4. We're starting to see those trends. So it's getting ready to be time to take our shot for that $1 million. Y'all look into it. This has been Win a Meal with D. Will, your boy D. Will. I'm out.